Everyone, I'm Mandy-Lynn, and I am your host of Port City Personalities. I'm very excited about today's show, so thank you so much for taking a minute and joining us. I promise you won't be disappointed. Port City Personalities is geared toward anybody that has a personality. We will be talking to James Mullinger, Nikki Payne, and Derek Seguin. Who knows how to say his name? Tune in and you're going to find out. Thanks for joining us at Port City Personalities. Let's get the show started. Hi, everyone. You're joined today with me, Mandy-Lynn, your host of Port City Personalities. And we are joined today with three of my very, very favorite comedians and so much more. I can't wait to get started today. We have a fun, jam-packed episode for everybody. It's going to be filled with everything that you could imagine. My guests today include James, Derek, and Nikki, who really need no introduction. And how are you guys all doing today?
Feels good.
Wonderful.
And just so all the viewers know, we've tried this 4 previous times, and crazy, stupid screw-ups happen. And I gotta say, I think all 4 of those other ones would have been more entertaining than that. Oh, James, Nikki, and Derek, welcome to. It was the awkwardness of the previous screw-ups were better.
And so, James Mullinger, what do you think about that?
Nice. Right into
Not doing a countdown.
Awkward moment.
No, that's what I wanted to start with, an awkward moment.
Ah, yes.
You did that on purpose?
I did.
Nailed it.
That's how
Nailed
you
it.
want your first show to go.
3.
Countdown means down. 3, 2, 1. Not
3, 2, 1 means down. So how do you usually start your countdowns, James, if it's you?
3,
That's
2, 1.
good.
You said
Good.
1, 2, 3.
I know, but I wasn't sure the way we were going to start it. So Nikki's already disappointed. Let's just.
I'm so angry right now. I'm so angry.
And it's well, it depends. Some people go 3, 2, 1, and then they start on 1, and some people go 1, 2, 3, then they stop, and then no.
No,
how
I'm
would
taking
you-
Literally,
this over.
that's a
I'm taking
count
this
up.
over. Welcome to Port City Personalities. I'm your host, Nikki Payne, filling in for Mandy-Lynn, who doesn't know how to start a TV show. So I'm my guest today.
Nor the difference between up and down.
No.
I love
Sorry.
any intro that begins, they need no introduction, and everyone is watching going, James, Derek, and Nikki, who? But anyway, hello everyone. It is,
Hi.
I know who you all are. I know who we all are. I don't really know who I am, but I know who everyone else is here. But it is good to see you all.
Thank you all for being on my very first episode. And let's start with some real introductions. So, James, for anybody watching who might not know who you are, why don't you tell them about yourself?
Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, hi. I am a comedian from England who recently became a Canadian, and I'm also very proudly one of Mandy-Lynn Donovan's best friends.
All right. And Derek, who are you?
My name is Derek Seguin, because people don't know who the hell I am. We're all stand-up comedians, but I'm a stand-up comedian. And I'm currently in Florida with the other 47% of Quebec that comes here in the winter.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Nikki Payne up at the top. Hi, Nikki. Who are you?
I am your new leader.
We accept. We'll take any new leaders.
I am the new leader of the Port City. Resistance is futile.
We accept. Take us to your kingdom. What's your policy on lockdowns? Because we're with you.
Do you drive a truck?
Do not have my air brake license.
That was one of the.
My name's Nikki Payne. I'm also a stand-up comedian. I live in Grand Barrasswa, New Brunswick, and I'm a student at Mount Allison University.
Beautiful place.
Go, what did they call? What's the teams called at Mount A?
Go Mounties.
Mounties. Go Mounties.
And
Derek, you're in Florida
Yes.
at a wedding, which I noticed on social media at the weekend. Of all of the many comedic explosions of people blaming comedians for things, people being angry at comedians for things, and being mad at jokes. My favorite confusion of the weekend was the fact that you somewhat foolishly hashtagged used to hashtag on a beautiful picture, wedding day on a beautiful picture of beach, leading to thousands of comments, including myself, saying congratulations. But it wasn't your wedding day, was it?
No, I was just at a wedding. But I expect to get home and have like 7 waffle makers on my front porch.
I know. I had to quickly cancel
gift cards,
canceling a lot of orders.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people even like you know me well, James. How do you think that would be a thing that happened?
I know, but I don't know. I guess you're used to people. I'm used to you doing. I'm used to you doing crazy stuff without necessarily telling. But I think also it's one of those things nowadays that people do run off and do things, and then suddenly you discover it on the old socials.
Right now that stand-up comedy is illegal. I might want to marry into some money. Somebody who's got a job still. No, I didn't get married.
And I'm sorry, I bought you a gift, so that's fine. I still have the receipt. We're good.
We'll take it. We still like each other.
You still are, except anybody that's listening, still taking the gifts in.
Yeah.
And the last time that the 4 of us were together, I think wasn't it Robert Gallant's wedding?
I think
Robert Gallant's wedding, yeah.
Beautiful time it was.
Does anyone remember that night?
I remember we all had lunch. It was daytime. We all had lunch together on a patio somewhere.
We did on the main street in Moncton, straight after the wedding.
Right, between the wedding and the party part.
Just
I was
speaking
a
of wedding.
designated driver, so I remember everything.
Oh no.
Mute her.
Yeah, get And so I wanted to spend this hour, and thanks so much, guys, for joining me. I wanted to spend this time talking a little bit about lockdown and a little bit about what each of you have been doing in terms of getting out there, in terms of performing, and just basically using this opportunity. The 4 of you, because I like to talk in third person about myself, is the 4 of you are very, very well known around, and just basically so people could get a peek to kind of see what you guys have been up to during the lockdown. A lot of people have used this opportunity to be able to do different things, explore different things about themselves. Some people changing career paths entirely. And I wanted to basically find out what's under the hood with you guys. So whoever would like to start.
All right, I guess I'll go first. I spent probably 21 months being super mega frustrated with everything. And and sometimes to get rid of my frustration, I started doing a lot of home renovation things, and then ended up doing stuff for other people too, just to pass the time. And it's kind of I have to say, on the one hand, I was doing it out of choice and just like, I could do that. But it's hard, like to build a deck. I needed like 4-month break after building a deck, and to think that there's people that work this hard all the time, like every year. I'm like, tabarnak, I can't wait for that jokes to become legal again. I have calluses on my hands, like all of a sudden. What the heck? How do you? Never mind. How do you do? Just wondering, how do you just live with calloused fingers, calloused hands?
Nice to do an honest day's proper old school man's work.
And it does. While I'm doing it, I'm not thinking about the lockdown. I'm not thinking about COVID and all that. You're focused on the task at hand. So I was quite. In retrospect now, thinking I'm so happy that I found this thing that I'm pretty good at, and that really kept me focused on something that didn't have me just commiserate about all that stupid that was happening.
Yeah.
So home renovations, and what did you discover about yourself with that? Was it something that you're good at doing? Like, is the deck still intact?
Yeah, I discovered that I am pretty good at it, that it's basically just logic. And I think that a lot of, not to be sexist, but a lot of people are intimidated by the thing. Like, oh no, I could never try that. I'm going to screw it up. Well, what's the worst case that you try it and you screw it up? Then you have to hire somebody to do it. If you just try yourself, it's literally not rocket science. It's basic physics. And I think we all have it. I equated it when I was talking to my kid. I was equating, like, athletes, sports, there's sports physics, right? Like a quarterback that throw a ball while a guy's running, he kind of, in his mind, is doing the physics of the wind and the speed of the guy running and how hard I'm throwing the ball. It's kind of like there's basic physics that without ever taking math class, I think we humans, if you've used a deck or gone up some stairs, you kind of understand the basic physics. So when you try to reverse engineer to then rebuild it, it's kind of logical. Anyway, I discovered that I'm pretty good at it. I don't mean to brag, but if anybody in Port City needs a deck or a redone tiled your bathroom, I literally have nothing to do until June.
Perfect.
That's what I'm doing in Florida. I'm building a new lanai here in the complex. See, it's easy. Are you a lanai builder? No, but I have screen and a staple gun, so let's go. That's what I mean. It's not that complicated with these renovations. Like, if you ever talked to like a plumber, like not all plumbers, but like sometimes you'll see a guy that's the professional that's been sent to your house to do a very specific, seemingly skilled job, and you talk to him, and the guy's like, "How did you survive your morning? You seem like a real idiot." So that's what inspired me to even try. I met a couple guys that work in construction. I'm like, this guy can't even tie his shoelaces. See, and he's making 180 grand a year. I got a hammer. Let's go.
And this is why there's so many open mic comedians now, because comedians meet us and think, if these idiots can do it, Jesus, we are the reason there is thousands of new open mic comedians.
That's it. And I want to clarify, I don't think everybody that works in construction is stupid, but like any profession, no, I don't want to be the next Joe Rogan.
Yeah, no.
Cancel me, Joe Rogan style. Say one thing. Call one group of people idiots, and all of a sudden, they come after you.
Yeah, and you went after the plumbers. Like, you should have went after the carpenters, because at least, like, you have that skill. You haven't done any DIY plumbing yet.
Oh, yeah, I have.
Oh, you have?
I'm good at everything, Nikki. I am so talented in every way.
Fantastic.
And it's a good thing, because I don't remember how to do jokes anymore. I've no discipline. I did a bunch of online shows too during the pandemic, and the last one I did, I wrote myself a set list and everything. Didn't get to anything. I was so. It seems like my ADD has gotten exponentially. Like, if I'm not actually trying to cut a very specific angle of wood, I have no focus whatsoever. I did an hour and 15 minutes. I have no idea what I even talk about. I know that Smurfs ended up coming. I ended up with Smurfs in my bum at some point during the thing. I don't know if you guys know this about my act. I have no Smurf and bum jokes.
But your act is often like that, where you'll go out with a plan and then just do something completely different for an hour and a half. I mean, to your point on like trying to remember how to do it, I'm assuming obviously both of you, or all three of you, have done some shows in the last 2 years after probably the longest period of ever not doing it. What was that first gig like for all of you after 6 months or a year or whatever it was, after March 2020?
I stopped to hang a wall shelf in between.
Oh,
nice.
I was going to ask that to Derek.
That's it. Derek's making decks in the interval.
Yeah. He's trying to squeeze me out of the industry, hanging your own shelves. God. The first live shows I did were very, very exciting, and but I remember the first couple of shows I did, when they're bigger, like a fundraise or a corporate, and so the first two shows coming out of after like 3 months of not doing a live show, so I did a corporate. Corporates are sometimes fun, but this one wasn't one of those. And then I was doing this fundraise, and I was just there, and there's the way that they're treating you, like, okay, go stand over there, we'll tell you when we're ready. I ended up calling Uncle Mike. I called Mike Wilmot to be like, my God, I think this was too long without doing it. I don't think I like stand-up anymore. I was worried. I was really worried that something had happened during the lack of doing it. And Mike was like, well, what shows have you done? And I told him I did a corporate last weekend, and now I'm at a fundraiser. And he's like, well, it's because who likes doing those even in the good times? Just go do Mike in the basement of somewhere. That's where you have fun. And I ended up doing a show for 17 people at Hurley's. You guys, James, I know knows Hurley's, yeah. But Nikki, the Irish pub in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 15 people out on the back patio. And I'm like, oh, that's right. This is awesome fun.
That's what's
so
fun,
I was back. It was weird that doing for 500 people I didn't enjoy, but then 15 outside was what made me feel like, okay, I got my desire back.
Yeah, and I think it's completely kind of normal for it to be like that, because one of the only things that stops stand-up from becoming terrifying, or rather the reason that we kind of ease into it night after night, is it's just that thing of, especially when you're doing it every night, it's like, well, last night was fine, and the night before was fine, so I'm going to be fine. And that combined with the kind of comfort of being up there and just feeling like you're kind of match fit and you've got a rhythm, that removing, months and months of that, I think is going to make us literally feel like, when you think to pre March 2020, if you didn't do it for a few weeks, you would feel rusty. To suddenly 4-6 months on us is. How about you, Nikki? Nikki, you've obviously done shows in the last 2 years. How did you find them?
I was shocked at how much I liked doing the Zoom shows.
Same.
I was shocked. I was like, I don't have to leave home. I can wear my pajama pants. Yeah. And I really enjoyed, I was shocked how much I enjoyed them. But they're not the same. No. Just because I'm enjoying it doesn't mean that it's the same. It definitely isn't. My first big one was in St. John. It was shocking to have that many people in a room again. I was kind of thrown off and a little freaked out by it. Yeah, it's and again, to what Derek said, I didn't really do much in my act. I did a lot of ranting about, because at that point I was trying to get my parents across the New Brunswick Nova Scotia border. And the situation at that border at that time was changing literally weekly. The rules change weekly. And so trying to organize a move of 2 elderly people from Nova Scotia to New Brunswick was insane. So I literally, because that's what I do, is I rant about things that bother me. I literally, Mandy was there. I spent, a good hour every night just screaming.
Well, and
it felt really good.
Yeah, and that's what people that's what people come to. Yeah, it's free therapy for us, and also for, I think, for the audiences, what they love is that they are not, because they're not seeing their friends and their family and people that they admire and their colleagues. They're all just basically confronted with the same thing we're confronted with, which is just this kind of shit show of stupidity on social media, where there's basically 2 arguments. There's there's the 2 extremes. It's like COVID's a hoax, Trudeau created it to control us, and then on the other side there's we must lock ourselves down forever, we must never leave our homes ever again, wear 12 masks to go to bed, and then everyone's going, well, where's the nuance, where's the in the middle? And so for them to come out and hear funny and intelligent people come on stage and rant about it, it's not only is it funny, it's a huge relief and a release to go, thought I was the only, sorry, forgive my language, I thought I was the only person that felt that way, which is of course what all kind of great comedy is anyway, but now more than ever. They're not traditionally, when we're on stage, we're competing with people's funny uncles, funny friends, funny neighbors. Now when they see us, we're not competing with anything.
Yeah, I mean, no matter no matter where you lie in the whole vaccines are hoax, or we should never leave our houses, or the many people in between, the through line and the thing that we all have in common is we're exhausted and we're frustrated, right? So to go up and talk about it, in a funny manner is a huge release of okay, no matter where we sit in our beliefs, we all need to have a moment where we're just ah!
Yeah. We all just want to get back to 2019. I found an old Facebook post, one of those Facebook memories that popped up, and it was me saying what a terrible year 2019 was. And I look back and I'm like, what was going on in 2019 that was bothering me so much that I thought it was a bad year? But now I'm like, just rewind. Even if Trump has to be in power again, let's just get back there.
Yeah, our level of
It was weird to give everybody all these backward, all these extreme thinkers, like we were saying, a one common thing. Politically, that's there is nuance in politics. There's two parties. But now we're asking people to have an opinion about this one principle and all its, like offshoots, like the mask and the vaccine and the horse tranquilizer or dewormer or whatever. But it's all still with one true line. And then we're hearing all these extreme opinion about it. And like James said, it gives us great opportunity to go out there and have very strong opinion about it, but not extreme. You know what I mean? Like just like I've often said, there's things that the government have done that I don't like, but I'm also inherently lazy. So unless the protest is gonna swing by my house and pick me up, I'm not.
This one might. This one might. You were talking, Mandy, about what we've done over the time that we've had. Let me show you.
Wow.
Arts and crafts.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
Check that out.
So that's Canadian trolls.
Shediac trolls. They're different. There's something in the water.
Troll.
I love it.
And he moves too. He's like you can move him around. He's like I'm gonna use him to do stop animation.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
And he's even got a little bolt in his butt.
To pee?
Yeah.
To bolt them to things?
No, to bolt him to things so that he doesn't move if you want him to stay put.
Genius.
That's cool.
So that's what I've been doing.
So because you already were creating things and kind of ensconced in this kind of mindset of creating, did you find that lockdown, obviously no kind of forced lockdown is fun, but at the same time were you kind of more inclined to go, right, I am focused today, I'm going to do this, and just basically
for sure, because I was leaning away from, you all know that I've been like doing less and less stand up. Not because I don't love it, but I don't love travel. I don't love, I don't love being away from home for extended periods of time. And I wanted to see where my creativity could go elsewhere. And so I got a chance to really focus more on making weird little things that I didn't have. Weird little things. Nice. I got, I had time to make weird little things that I didn't have time to make before. So in that sense, it's been huge. Like it's been a huge kind of freedom for me to it's weird to feel free during lockdowns, but it was a freedom to be able to I've got home. Time now to do these other things.
Yeah, yes. and how long? I guess I'll ask this question to each of you, because in comedy we talk about this all the time. We're performing about how we don't always necessarily know what the venue is going to look like when we get to it, and how things are going to happen, what's going to function, what's not going to function, what's going to be different. And I've been at shows with all of you where you can attest to that. But how long did it take you guys to get used to Zoom, and what were some of the biggest challenges that you noticed? Let's start with you, Derek.
Well, for me, I think similar to Nikki, I didn't hate it. And I think one of the things that, first of all, I think, we as performer, when we bomb, it takes a long time to get over it. Even like you do 2 or 3 more good shows, you're still like, So I think the fact that my first online Zoom experience went pretty well, I was like that. And then I think also starting to hear your colleague being like, I hate Zoom, I'm never doing Zoom again. And then I'm like, well, looks like I'm going to be cornering the market on this Zoom opportunity, because I don't mind it at all. I don't have to worry about drinking and driving. It's awesome. Just sitting in my garage, pounding drinks, screaming at my laptop. My kids think I'm losing my mind, but it's fine. They leave me alone. I'm stuck in the house with them, but they're afraid of me because I'm yelling at inanimate objects all the time with no pants on and a beer in my hand.
So just like when you're at live shows.
Just like when I'm at live shows, except there's people there. At least there's people there when I'm ranting and raving about nonsense, and my kids aren't there. But so the fact that my colleagues seem to not like doing online stuff made me, after having done it once and not hating it, I was like, this is great. Kind of like a corporate. When you get to a corporate and they're paying you big money, you assume, and they've told you, like before, the HR person said, okay, stay away from politics and religion and don't swear and whatever, and you're getting big money, so you do it. And then you get there and the president comes up to you like, don't listen to HR bimbo, she's the whatever, she's still uptight, do whatever you want, do that joke that we like so much on the internet. And you're like, oh my god, I'm making all this money now and I get to do whatever I want. And then it turns out they're all a bunch of fun people. It's like that for me. Zoom was, I went into it apprehensive and like, oh my god, this is gonna suck. And then because it didn't suck, I'm not gonna say it's as great as live, but like, you know, you go in thinking it's gonna be terrible and it's only not bad. It's a win. It feels like a win.
Yeah, low expectations are the secret to happiness.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want to put that on a mug. Put that on a mug, Nikki. You'll be rich.
Jimmy Carr said something to me recently. He said, not wanting something is as good as having it. And I thought,
that's good too.
That's a good low expectation for life. Yeah. But I agree. I mean, this is quite rare to have 4 performers in a space that all agree that Zoom gigs not a nightmare. Yeah. And I agree. It's funny, the amount of people either said to me that they did a couple and hated it, or the other thing that invariably comedians would say is, I just can't do it. It sounds like a nightmare. And I would always say, yeah, but so did stand-up before you did it 100 times. And to my mind, I mean, the first ones took some... I mean, the interesting thing is that, like Nikki, I mean, I enjoyed the fact that I enjoyed the lack of travel thing. I quite liked the fact of being able to say thank you very much, good night, and then immediately, you know, you're sat on the couch 10 seconds later. But outside of that, I also liked often when I'm driving to corporates, my big fear the whole way is, because invariably in a lot of cases with corporate gigs, especially as a comedian in Atlantic Canada, most of the times that you're doing a show, you're often doing it for companies or people who have never worked with comedians or indeed any entertainer before. So the 6-hour drive is spent worrying, is the sound system going to work? I really like spending all day knowing that my tech setup worked, and that if you know, outside, I mean, I guess is the best way I can put it is, out of every 20 corporate gigs, I would say 2, there would be a total technical nightmare, from poor feedback to them not being able to hear me. And in, you know, 2 years of doing virtuals, I've never had, you know, there's been delays and stuff where it takes a couple minutes to be late starting, but I've never had an all-out technical disaster, which, again, to your point, Derek, there's no like gutting bombs after a virtual. And I've also found all the different, I mean, I actually like the fact, like you stand looking at a screen of all those faces. I've just replaced my love of the sound of laughter with I now live for just little boxes of people going.
Yeah, smiley Brady bunch.
Just people laughing. Because really, I mean, unless you're in a really close club, in a theatre, you can't see close-ups of people's faces. I love the fact that I'm seeing, and also, if it's a big group and if it's a page of just dud people not laughing, I just use they don't know. I'm just standing there, and I'll scroll through with my right hand. I'll be scrolling through the pages to find a page of laughers, and so I better choose my audience.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, it's
and what are the is there any disadvantages to Zoom other than the fact that, okay, we know it's not live, we know that it doesn't take the place of live, we know that it's a different kind of entertainment in a way because of what James just outlined, but is there any disadvantages to Zoom?
Well, I guess one point I would make is that, of course, one thing I've always tried to point out to bookers and stuff is that, of course, even though it's not in person, it is live, which... Because again, in the past, I had someone book me for one and say, can you pre-record it? And I said, no. And they said, well, why not? What's the difference? I said, because if you're going to pre-record me in my living room doing a set, you may as well just watch Seinfeld's new special on Netflix. The whole point of this is that it's live and I'm interacting with you, and I'm complaining because Bob's just got up and his testicle fell out when he was walking to the bathroom. Yeah. And like, you're actually engaging with stuff that's happening, as opposed to... But yeah, I've seen no massive disadvantages other than the obvious thing that you mentioned, Mandy, of it not being in the same room. I've not felt any other huge... I also quite like the fact that, I mean, even though the fees might be less, so is the on-the-road alcohol bell, or the sushi bell and the 3 a.m. taxi bell. So It's my wife tells me that the P&L last year was far more impressive than it was any other year. So
I find there is a resistance for audience members to purchase tickets for a Zoom show. What we mostly are talking about are corporates and fundraisers and things like that. Like, it's an organization in which you're bringing an audience with them. I've done a couple where it's someone that's just producing an online comedy show. And what I found is that people are a little, in general, people are a little more reluctant to buy a ticket to a Zoom show than to buy a ticket to a comedy club.
And that is a good disclaimer, because yes, everything I'm talking about is corporate, and I have only done one ticketed one, but it was again through someone else. But you, Derek, you've done all of you, or most of yours have been ticketed, but also you've built up a huge following doing it that way.
Yeah, I was like listening to you guys. I'm like, oh shoot, I did something special? I don't want to tell anybody then. But yeah, I did 11. Yeah, I called them the Pan-Derek shows, and I did 11 of them. The last one being not this past Friday, but the one before, right before I left for Florida. And each one I was more overwhelmed than the time before, how many people.
Wow.
And how much money I was able to make. I made it pay what you want, and there's some people that are just like, oh, these poor artists, and they would pay me ridiculous amount of money for watching a thing on Zoom. And I gave them the choice between Zoom, where you can interact with me, or you could just be on YouTube where you just watch. And it was quite overwhelming. It was, in fact, right out of the gate, the first one I did, I made so much money that I was embarrassed that I tried to give some away to other comedians that weren't as lucky.
I watched...
and then people, Mark Forward gave me the idea. And Mark, then I noticed Mark saying, guys, stop sending me money. And then me too, same thing. It was like, I said, I'm giving away $1,000 to any comedian or artist that wanted, just let me know. And then I ended up getting like another $700 sent to me from people saying, oh, you're going to help artists? Here's some more money. I'm like, okay, wait a sec. I still have to pay tax on this. Stop sending me money now. Plus I couldn't find any, we were only 3 weeks into the pandemic. I couldn't find any artists to take it. They were all like, no, I'm not poor. What are you? I'm successful. Shut up. Okay, sorry. I'm not trying to insult you.
You can send it to me.
Yeah, now 2 years later, I bet you there's some people that are regretting it.
Well, just get your email put at the bottom of the screen.
And I guess that's an interesting point, Derek, was that also, I mean, and everyone's idea of what a virtual gig is different. Yeah. I mean, for my mind, mine were simply, Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whatever. Audience muted, obviously me not muted, and that was basically it. Whereas I believe, Derek, yours were interact. I mean, and again, I'll answer questions. I keep the chat box open so they can heckle, and again, I would interact that way. But you could hear them through earphones. You could also
read the comments on YouTube.
Right? Yeah, you kind of built up a little set up for it, which meant that. And again, I watched one of them, and it was great. And yeah, I mean, you felt like, I think that's things you didn't feel like it was a compromise watching.
I lucked into it too. I had that system set up from the get-go, like the pay what you want, the 2 cameras, one being for YouTube, one being for Zoom. I just happened into it, and it was immediately successful, and it teetered off there. I did 2, I think one in June and one in August of that first summer of lockdown. Those were the 2 that were less attended, but still 75, 80 people. I think the highest we hit was 300 and something people. And all I did was put it on Instagram and Facebook, and that. It was like I had people from Australia, Thailand, Europe, all kinds of states.
St. John.
Thailand, it's 5 o'clock in the morning in Thailand when they were watching,
That was
I was so flattered.
That was the interesting
Americans. Like, how do Americans even know who I am? And then it's because of that JFL Canada Sirius XM. They hear you because they're scrolling through comedy things, and so I had a different experience. I got very, and it turns out very lucky. I was very lucky to have gotten that.
And I've only had a handful that I've done like that, and so I can't say for sure. I was assuming, and I was wrong. Yeah, that's so cool.
I'll be honest. I have done some too that were with other people where I'm doing like 10 minutes instead of whatever, an hour and a half. And I'm like, this one's less attended than when I was doing it by myself. Like I'm doing one with Erica Sigurdsson next week. Did you do one of Erica's, Nikki?
I haven't done one of Erica's yet. No.
Okay. She's doing one next week. That's like, it's called Online Vancouver Comedy or something like that. So this week it's a Toronto, like a East Coast team, I guess Toronto, but I'm not sure. Anyway, but there's like 7 of us on the show. That's the other thing. When I do my solo show, I have nobody to split the money with. So if you sell 100 tickets, but then you still have to split the money 7 ways, it's kind of like.
Yeah, I mean that's why I didn't. Maybe. Yeah, I mean I literally switched. It was a comedy bar show that I was supposed to do in person in Toronto. That was the only one that I did kind of like that, where it basically switched to online. And again, I mean, in that instance, it was like everyone kept their tickets. Plus, then of course, people in England bought tickets. But for the rest of the time, the only reason I haven't is just because of the amount of corporate stuff that came in. And what's interesting now is that it's not stopping, but it's also turned up this whole kind of new avenue where it's not, people aren't booking it because, oh, we can't do an in-person event. They're booking it because they now realize this is an option. And to give an example, RBC booked me to do like all the tellers in Atlantic Canada, and it was Staff Appreciation Day. They come in at 8 a.m, so you're basically doing stand-up for 8 a.m. till 9 a.m. But then all the other RBCs kind of around the country started picking up on it. Now, that would never have been something, that wasn't going to be an in-person event. They were never going to book a 5,000 seat conference room and take them all to this one place. It's like the concept of virtual gigs was born out of the pandemic, but now I find almost every booking that's coming in is one that would only be virtual. Similarly, like I did 4,000 teachers at one point, which again, I mean, it's a low cost way of organizations doing something, an appreciation thing. And then afterwards, I mean, the feedback that you get is, in addition to obviously people that would rather not, there's people that would rather go to a in-person thing, but you get tons of feedback from people saying that either they don't go out because they've got terrible scent allergies, or they care for someone at home, or financial reasons. So it became like the ultimate level.
Terrible scent allergies?
Yeah, that's a genuine thing I had. Someone saying that they could,
but it's still a pretty specific one. You
come
up with something that affects a few more people, like fear of plague, or
well, fear of plague now is everyone.
People have a lot of things that they, like they have. Their aunt had a club foot, and so it traumatizes them to go out to any club. What? That's why they're not going out.
I literally had the scent allergy one. It's why it's so specific, and they it's interesting. It's the ultimate leveler. Is what I'm saying, is that the amount of people writing saying they've never been included in these work events before, and suddenly now they are. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I don't think it's going to stop. I feel like even when things are fully open and COVID's a distant memory, I feel like there'll still be some places doing
this. This is a new medium for everybody. So this is a new way for us to access entertainment. So we did streaming before we started it. Everybody knows that before Microsoft Teams and Zoom, people were using it very seldomly. Then when people started using it more through the pandemic, and we saw that Lawyer with the Crown, where his grandson set him as a kitten, and he said, "This isn't really me, Judge. I'm really a person." He said, "I know." And we first started seeing the mess ups of it, but then we started to embrace it. So this is another way for you to access your comedy. In our case, this is another way for you to access your television. In our case, or for you to be able to look at things. So you have the newspaper, you have the radio, you have going to your live shows when you can't do that. Would you guys say that this is just another way that the media is digitally converged?
Hope so. I hope it doesn't replace a fraction of what was our already existing opportunity. Hopefully, this
does it open the market for you, though? Would you say that it opens the market for you
to other places? I guess geographically, it certainly does. Yeah. Because I don't have a visa to work in any other country. So, I guess there's a lot of people that came to those live shows online that would never have the opportunity to see me live unless they were visiting a city that I happen to be in Canada. So, there is that of reaching another market. For me, it's just anytime there's a new revenue or opportunity stream for comedians, like anytime somebody put together a show like that roast battle, or the one that Darren Rose hosted there, the not Hollywood Squares, but the match game.
Oh yeah.
Any new job opportunity for comics makes me very happy. So as long as eventually live shows come back to the same level that they were before, and now we're all able to supplement our income by $10,000 by doing, a dozen or so online shows, that's great for those that want it too, because we know there's a lot of our colleagues that hate it, and who knows how they've made a living through this. So for those of us that can do anything that makes making a living as a comic easier, I'm all for it. I'm all right behind it 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Nikki, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, as far as the corporates go, I'm not, I've never been known as a corporate comedian because my act is kind of salty. And I think that the reason why I was able to get more corporates was because it didn't cost as much to have me. So it was less of a risk. Right. Yeah. And so I was able to build a bit of trust. It's like, oh, okay, she's salty on, in the clubs and stuff like that. But she, she knows how to take it down, a couple notches to, make it work. And I think corporations are also realizing, oh man, it's cheaper. We don't have to put everybody up at a venue. We don't have to, we don't have to fly everybody in to have to have our end of year, corporate, whatever workshops and stuff, whatever corporate people do. I don't shit like that. But it's like, you're like, oh man, everybody's happy with this. And it was way cheaper for us. Yeah. And so corporates were not my thing before this. And now suddenly it's, I'm not saying that I'm suddenly an amazing corporate comedian, but I can do it and they trust me more.
It's also good to have this. It's a separate price point. It's like now when people, because now it is that period when you're getting a lot of messages and people saying, we want to plan to do this in-person event, but obviously it may become a virtual event. And now it's like, well, here are the two price points. You want to fly me in, it's this, and you want to do it virtually, it's this. And it just, as Derek says, it's more opportunities for us. And as you say, Nikki, it's less of a gamble for them.
Yeah, and I think now there's a couple of corporations that now I've built up trust with, where when things do come back to being live, that, now that I've built a relationship and they get like, oh, okay, she's not actually that insane.
Because let's face it, right? They know they're taking less of a risk, because on a Zoom, it's easy to pull the plug, but it ain't easy to pull the plug. If you're in the room and you're screaming on the way out as they pull you out and screaming expletives, that's hard.
I'm going to ruin this place.
You're
going to run out of business. Yeah.
And then, so people always talk about memories of big bombs and times that they might have failed while they were performing, or a time that wasn't as ideal for them. But one of the questions that came in to ask you guys was, tell me about a good time, something that's specific. So where is a show or an event that you might have done where you went to and you knew you were going to kill it and you absolutely did? Talk about it.
Well, I have one memory. I at the last Nasty show I did Just for Laughs. They're already stacked lineups. The lineups are fantastic, but and so when you see the lineup though, like the pacing, what's it called? Yeah, the lineup. Yeah. Every night I was following either like Nikki Glazer or Brad Williams or Kurt Metzger. Anyway. One night, so you're getting used to that. I'm like, okay, I can stand with these guys. One night, Ron White walked in. He's like, I'm just gonna jump on. So he jumps on right in front of me, and I'm like, oh man, now I gotta follow Ron White. This is just great. And so there's extra nerves already. It's an important show, part of the festival, and so he did it, he crushed it, and I went out and also crushed it and got half a standing ovation at the Metropolis, which is I'll take that. So yeah, that was a huge level of satisfaction to not be a disappointment after one of the best to ever do it.
Nice. And it's interesting. Well, it's interesting the way that you frame it, Mandy, because I find that for me the best ones are the ones that stand out are actually always the ones that I go to them not thinking it's going to go well, and then they do. And it's often the the thing I get the most satisfaction from in this job is making an awful situation work. And that to me is that's what I live by.
If we could stop bringing my love life into this, James, that'd be great. Every interview.
Sorry. It's that thing when you arrive at, when a corporate sounds like a nightmare, and then you get there and you look at the room and you go, this is not good, and you see the people and you're like, oh God, no. And then the sound system wasn't that good. And then somehow, you through hard work and tenacity or whatever it is,
of course,
somehow turn it around, and then at the end they're all on their feet and you go, yes, those are the times I get the most job satisfaction, because I go, okay, that room and this scenario is one that you would call unwinnable, and yeah, I feel like I overcame that. That's what gives me the most satisfaction, I find.
Had some fun. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And then another big question I have for everybody here, because it's a question that's on a lot of everybody's mind, is not only have you guys managed to be able to take a situation right now with a lot in the world, with everything that's going on right now in the world, but you guys have found a way to cope with it yourself, to go through everything yourself, but then also to be able to still go out there, or to be able to still do it through Zoom, but to still help people laugh. Why is that still important too? Why is that still important right now? Why do you do what you do?
It's all ego for ourselves. It's not actually to help others.
Because we're selfish.
We just want
number one.
Very selfish. Just want people to
can't
tell
afford
us
therapy. Number two.
And our skill set is such that there's not very many other avenues we could go down where working 6 hours a week supports our family.
Nikki got scared at that one. The thought of full time.
I tried working at a real job like construction, and it's a fun little hobby for a few months to like play pretend. It's like I told him it's like I'm doing research for a role as an actor later. I'm going to be playing John Vila in the story of the biopic of John Vila.
This isn't real.
But I was happy to like the deck's finished, and then go back home and do nothing again.
What was your first job, Derek? Since it's on you, then what was your first job? Did you know comedy was going to be your career? Did you start at like a Burger King, or did you start like something and then progress from there?
I've done all those jobs. I started comedy at 31. I was a very late bloomer. So I've done all the jobs. I did all the jobs. Before finding this one. I did them all. I worked Burger King and McDonald's. How about that?
There you go. Yeah. And so when did you decide that comedy was going to be for you? And what did people say? Oh, you're funny, or like what got you started?
As soon as I did it once, I was immediately addicted to it. But even then, I didn't think of it ever being a job. I just continued doing it because I like doing it. Like, I'm in my 30s, all my buddies were all starting to have kids and things. A lot of my buddies were starting to go to the gym or play like grown-up hockey or whatever that's called, men's league, old people hockey. I don't know. They were doing a bunch of exercise things. So I'm like, I need to find a hobby. So I found a hobby where I could drink and smoke while doing it. It was like, this is the best. I can drink and smoke doing my hobby. And it's not bowling. It's like stand-up. I'm just hanging out in a bar. And then slowly, like, they would start paying you. Like here, you come to an opening spot on Friday. It's $25. And I'm like, I just covered my bar bill and I'm doing this thing that I really like. And then just eventually it became like I jumped the gun a bit. I quit my job about a year premature. I got my first Just for Laugh festival and was like, I'm going to be a huge star. I'm the next Nikki Payne. I quit. I'm sorry. Screw you, job. I'm quitting. And then as soon as Just for Laughs ended, I went back to making $25 a set, and I'm like, oh God, I'm in trouble. I will have to do 600 sets a week to support my family.
It is funny, that moment everyone has where you start and then you feel like, well, I'm doing this, and something happens early on which gives you a false sense of security, where everyone has this. It's like a year or 2 years in, this one thing happens and no one tells you that nothing like that's going to happen for another 10 years, but you're kind of like, this is it, and it's never it.
I'm glad I was in my 20s, so I was just so stupid that I didn't realize like what a risk I was taking. Just, I had no money to begin with. So
So the loss wasn't much.
Yeah. It's like, so I'm in my 20s. I'm poor telling jokes, or I'm poor being a nanny. What does it matter?
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm stupid. In your 20s, you're just so willing to take a risk that I would never do today.
Yeah, and it's funny, like Mandy, you ask like what keeps us doing it. I mean, obviously we all love it, and I think that's the interesting thing is that we've spent a lot of the hour talking about how much we've grown to love or grown to accept Zoom. And again, I mean, there are things about it I love, but really a lot of that is, of course, just trying to stay positive about the fact that obviously the thing that we love most is being up in front of people. So, I mean, to answer your question, why we still do it, I mean, I think I can speak for all of us when I say it's because we love it, and there is nothing like that. I mean, this Wednesday I'm back on stage doing like new material, and of course, I mean, last couple of years, anytime I've been on stage, it's been basically new because it hadn't been road tested properly before because there was no way to. But this is my first time doing like a actual road test work in progress show. And it's totally intimidating. I feel scared about it, walking up with like basically an hour of just jokes scribbled down, because I feel like I'm fine without that safety net of polished material in a new material show normally, but not when I feel like I have no stagecraft left whatsoever, unless I'm looking into a little camera. So it's weird. I've spent last week, I'll probably spend the next couple of days worrying about it. I'm sure Wednesday I'll feel alive again and be like, why was I worrying? But I've definitely...
Takes one before, and make it be halfway through that first one back.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh yeah, this is totally like, I don't know, everyone chooses riding a bike. Last time I rode a bike, I fell. But it's like a thing that you remember.
Yeah.
Insert whatever activity that is for you.
Nice.
I realize this is a New Brunswick-based show, too. I feel like I would be remiss to not share an anecdote that happened to me. I think I talked to James about it already, but so over the last 2 years, there's been various times where, things are opening back up again. And I think, Nikki, it might have been right before you were moving your parent, because I know it was a hassle to go. I went to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia during one of the times where we're loosening up, but I still had to register with the province of New Brunswick and the province of Nova Scotia. So we rented a beautiful little, remember, James? Yeah, the time we had lunch.
Yeah, it was lovely.
The marina.
At the marina, it was beautiful,
So I did the weekend in St. John, but I stayed the whole week at this beautiful little Airbnb cottage thing with my girlfriend. Then we went to Halifax. So entering Nova Scotia was even more tense than New Brunswick, but still, showed them your little the paperwork we had to do for the province and everything. Then I get there, so do the first show, it goes fine, it's good. The website, the Yuck Yucks website, hadn't even put that the show was happening, so we're lucky to get 70 people. Yeah, there was no, you go to the website only Friday and Saturday, so I don't even know how those 70 people showed up. Who are these idiots that showed up to an unannounced show? Luckily there was. Anyway, the Friday though, I get to the club, and there's police at the club, and I'm like, what's this? And he's like, somebody told us there was a dirty Quebecois unvaxxed COVID spreader here, so we came to check it out. And I'm like, no, I did all the paperwork here. It's like, I have permission from the province. And he's like, well, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, well, I don't, what show me the law that you're enforcing then, because I don't, and all this he's like, okay, well, just give me a screenshot of that, and where's your vaccine thing? I'm here, I've had one vaccine, or I forget but I did everything I needed to do. Like I answered all the questions, and then a week later, the province of Nova Scotia sent me a thing saying, okay, you are pre-approved, just make sure you have this document with you all the time. Okay. Do the show that night, and I'm like, that was weird. I get a call the next day. Everyone's like, no, you can't do the show, you're banned from the thing, you can't leave your hotel room. And I did everything they asked. I went to do a test as soon as I arrived in Nova Scotia, did everything that they said. And so we can't figure out either, why are they there? So they said they got an anonymous tip. Somebody called them to tell them that there was a dirty banister licking Quebecois COVID spreader there. Anonymous tip. So, yes, like what resentful person that I made. So what peanut allergy dickhead called? Anyway, So they were saying no. And this is, I discovered, friends, I discovered the power of social media, because I'm like, all right, that's it. I called the minister, not the minister, but the senior health doctor. What's his name, James? Dr.
Which one? The one in Nova Scotia?
Yeah.
Oh, Dr.
Strang or
Strang? Robert
Strang.
Strang.
Dr. Strang.
Yeah.
Strang.
Called his office, and everyone's working from home, right? So I'm talking to this woman at home. I'm like, okay, let me speak to your supervisor. And she's like, well, oh, and I declined. They called me like 5 times a day, but they're all calling from unlisted numbers, right? Because they're working from home. So when they're calling bill collection or tax collection, they don't want, they hide their number when they're calling. So I refused like 5 calls from this unlisted number, but it's all because the people that are working from home hide their anyway. Ended up speaking to this woman. She's like, well, she's like, you can't do it. We don't make exceptions. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to make an exception. You already approved me like a month ago. She's like, well, this is I said, let me speak to your supervisor. And so that become another phone call, blah, blah, blah. She's like, well, I'm doing the show anyway. I don't care what you say. And she's like, well, you could face a fine of up to $1,000. And I'm like, well, listen, I get paid $2,500 for the show. So I'll still be up $1,500. You know what I mean? If I don't do the show, I get 0. Yeah. So I still win. So your logic isn't really scaring me very much. She's like, well, you could be arrested too. I'm like, if you knew how many times.
No, thank you so much.
Then I ended up tweeting it. Somebody know a publicist and a lawyer. I'm taking this to the highest, whatever. And then like 20 minutes before the show, Dr. Strang office called me, said, you're free to do the show. And I was like, yeah, all right. I didn't realize
I found Nova Scotia in particular, and not to like, crap on them or anything like that, but I found there was a point where the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. And I think that's what frustrated me the most with my parents, was that we would get told one thing. And I'm sure, like, I get it. Like, COVID was changing. They know about as much as we do about COVID, right? And they're trying to do their best. Yep. But I found
we are almost out of time. Sorry, Nikki. We have about 30 seconds left.
All right. Anyway.
Sorry, guys. So long-winded.
Love you, Nova Scotia.
So thank you so much, guys. Thank you very, very much for joining me for my first show. I'm really excited that the very first show could have 3 of my very favorite, very, very best friends on here talking about everything. I do appreciate it. Everybody that tuned in, this is the very first episode of Port City Personalities with me, Mandy-Lynn, Nikki, who's chasing Emilio right now, James over here, and Derek. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. And I do appreciate you joining in.
Thanks, Mandy. Love you.
Guys.